Hey guys, so we're back with part 2 of our Kenneth Branagh Poirot series leading up to A Haunting in Venice, and today we are talking about
Death on the Nile.
Yes.
My amazing art.
Mm-hmm.
That's mine.
Poirot is now on a boat, and a murder happens.
Yep.
And there's some more personal connections with this murder, and it happens on the Nile. Hence the title here, drawn very well by Picasso over here.
It's not Death on the Mississippi, people. It's Death on the Nile.
I think also.
That's Benoit Blanc's next film. Death on the Mississippi. That's definitely it, bro. Ryan Johnson, hit me up. Let's start writing it.
And what every sequel should do is that it does expand on the first film, the first appearance of Poirot. You actually get kind of his origin. There's a great opening sequence that gives a good explanation for certain things in his life.
I thought it was like a very great look into, how he became what he became, like how he became this detective. Obviously, in the first film, you learn that his wife has passed away, and so he's missing her, right? And they go more into depth in that in Death on the Nile, with the opening sequence especially, because it like the whole theme of the film really is like love makes you do crazy things. So that's basically, I'm very glad that Kenneth Branagh kind of brought that up.
And it's definitely an interesting thematic change from Murder on the Orient Express. And this is something that I should have mentioned with that review, but I'll mention it here, that film had this overall theme of community. Again, not going into spoilers, but certain things are revealed, and there's a sense of like our interactions, connections to other people that maybe we don't know, maybe are different from us, but we are hooked together through this thing. Here, it's very much like what you said. Love makes you do crazy things. There's a lot of love in this film, and touching more on like intimate relationships that people have. Kenneth Branagh, he must have been in such a romantic mood when he was writing this movie. Just so many like intimate scenes with people, and just, I would say like out of like non-rom-com or just romantic films in general, this is probably like one of the best choices for like a film that's a different genre, but you can watch on Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. The first half of this movie, it gives a lot more character development for the characters in this film than it did with Murder on the Orient Express.
Yes,
you do get individual motivations in this film, and they are compelling. And this film, it allows for more emotional performances from these actors.
Oh yeah.
There's definitely great acting in Murder on the Orient Express, but here it's really expanded upon because you get those individual character moments.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing, and I was super impressed with Tom Bateman. He plays Book, and Book comes back. This time, like, he's a little more important towards the story.
Yeah.
And Tom Bateman is just awesome. The ensemble in Murder on the Orient Express, I say, did a better job together, whereas the ensemble in Death on the Nile did a better job by themselves. There was a great cast for Death on the Nile because every actor was able to act with the people they were in the scene with and then act on their own and really get into their character, feel the pain their characters are feeling, and that's what made this film amazing.
That's definitely something that they improved upon with this film. That is for sure.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm super glad that you're able to go more into the different characters around the ship this time.
And also the fact that this sequel, for as much as like that first film, Murder on the Orient Express, was setting up Poirot, this one, it expanded on him. There's actually a side to him in this film that I caught out where he's like this romantic almost.
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Clearly, we get the plot thread of his wife in the first film, and that's touched on more in this film.
Because of just like the love aspect of this film. You gotta see how Poirot is hurting.
And there's interesting questions in this film of like, could he have another life could he ever find love again, and could he ever be happy again?
And you kind of get that answer. You kind of get that answer.
Yeah, and it just some interesting questions that it really does a good job of. Like I said, it's the sequel taking what's set up and just expanding the world, expanding the characters, and it did that pretty well with Poirot in this film. That first half of the movie, you don't even get the murder until you're halfway through it, which was so surprising to me. Because this was the first time that I have watched this movie I missed it when it came out in theaters last year. I was just doing other stuff, but I watched it because I wanted to do this review series, and that just impressed me so much that they were able to have this whole compelling story play out, partly because there's this love triangle. There's a lot of tension going on there, and just a sense to the film where you feel like tragedy is going to strike.
Exactly.
And these characters that you're getting invested in, that you actually care about, that are actually more lively, which is something else that this film improves upon. That I like the cast in Murder on the Orient Express, but I felt like the characters could have been more fun. They were much more fun in this film.
Exactly.
I just thought it did a great job of having that compelling story without needing to go immediately into, okay, now it's a murder mystery, let's figure out where things are going to go.
And I actually say, like, something that I also think they improved upon in Death on the Nile is, on our Murder on the Orient Express review, we talk a little bit about pacing, about how it feels like it's going on a little long. Death on the Nile has a long runtime as well, but it fills up the runtime so well. Like, you don't even get the murder until you're halfway through the film, because he uses the first half of the film to help build, he helps build up those characters, the suspense, all this stuff that's like all this story. And then once the murder strikes, then he focuses on how all that stuff that he established in the first half of the film is going to factor into the murder. And it's genius. And it filled up the runtime way better than Murder on the Orient Express. It was just like a movie that, I really couldn't pull myself away from. I had to. Like, if you can sit down and watch it all in one sitting, please do. Because it's gonna get you invested. It's gonna get you, like, excited for, the conclusion. It's an incredible film. And it's very well put together, well thought out, and very well directed.
Yeah, and also some great production design in this film, which there was a lot of that in Murder on the Orient Express, but
exactly.
There were just some wide shots in this film, especially one where Poirot is sitting in front of the pyramids.
You're right.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually a really good shot.
Yeah. And I didn't realize how small the pyramids actually are.
Yeah.
And they are that small.
And honestly, it is more of a colorful film, more so than Murder on the Orient Express. The colors in Murder are more like cold blues and stuff.
Yeah,
Here it's way more lively and like wider range of colors. It really does make this film stand on its own away from Murder on the Orient Express, which again, that's something in and of itself, that this film doesn't really need you to watch Murder on the Orient Express to appreciate this film.
Exactly.
This film gives you everything you need to know for the theme, the characters, to just stand on its own and tell its own story very effectively.
And actually, now that you bring up the color thing, I kind of actually noticed, the colors do feel more lively, and then the murder happens, and actually does kind of kill the colors a little bit, doesn't he?
He does, kind of.
Halfway through.
After the murder happens, yeah.
Yeah, no one's wearing such, like, the clothing they're wearing doesn't pop off the screen as much as it does. It goes back to that, like that plaid and like the blue and the black. He dims the colors down after the murder, and that kind of helps change the mood. And it's genius, actually. It's very good.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I do have my share of issues with this film, like I did with the first one. And I would say that even though that first half is so effective in what it does in building up to that second half, once there is that change from the first half to the second half, the first half, it's so much like not a murder mystery, but then once it does that change in the second half and suddenly it's a classic murder mystery, it felt a bit uneasy on a tonal level. That it did feel like watching two different films to a certain degree.
Right.
It was still a watchable film. I was still interested in what was happening, but it wasn't the easiest shift, which also, once you get that change, it does go into more like familiar things of like examining people's grudges and greed. It's less interesting than all the intimacy stuff, like the love triangle things that the movie was doing, and now it's looking at these other characters, questioning their motivations of like, what do these characters have against this person not having to do with love? Or like wanting what this person has, not having to do with love. It made sense for a murder mystery, but it felt a bit by the numbers, I would say.
It was just too similar.
It was a bit similar, yes.
It's too familiar. It's stuff we've already, seen and read.
Yes. First half was honestly kind of great. I was surprised how good the film actually was. And then I guess the second half, I'm like, this is all right. You know, it's still in investing enough murder. I was still invested in the characters, especially Book. His storyline was actually pretty compelling. I was interested in that, and it went to some interesting places that we're not going to spoil, that I appreciated that it went to those places, and also connecting to his friendship with Poirot, which I thought was fleshed out much better in this film.
Yes.
But something I did find kind of annoying with this film, and it happens at the end. The ending, how it plays out, it undoes a certain plot thread that I really enjoyed in the first half of the movie. It recontextualizes it, and now it's not as powerful as it was watching the movie the first time. It has to do with the love triangle. And once it got to that ending, I was like, oh, so then this character motivation is not so interesting anymore. Just in the end, I really enjoyed this film. Do you have any final thoughts?
You know, as a murder mystery film, this is one of my favorites. Branagh is just so great. I'm so glad he's going to do Haunting in Venice. I mean, yes, it's another person dying on another form of transportation, but
But he does different things with it.
It does different things with it, and it has different. There's different reasonings and different motivations, and the characters are just so much more fleshed out in this film, like you said.
Okay.
So yeah, I give this film a 9 out of 10. It's incredible.
Nice. I also think that this film is better than Murder on the Orient Express. A lot of expansion that a sequel should do, the characters, and just having a more personal theme running through the movie. At times the movie's a bit familiar, a bit by the numbers. I didn't fully appreciate the end reveal of the film, but that didn't stop me from enjoying this film, from appreciating it, and just props to Poirot to making a movie you can watch on Valentine's Day that's not the typical romantic comedy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give Death on the Nile a B+. So, guys, make sure to stay around for our review of Haunting in Venice. We are gonna go watch it together, hopefully, and then he'll probably be in my initial reaction of probably.
Out of the theater, fresh reaction.
That's gonna be so cool. Make sure to stick around. If you missed our review of Murder on the Orient Express, it is now on the channel. You can go check that out. I'll probably have it on the screen somewhere around here. Make sure to check out his channel. I'll put it in the description.
Check out my Spotify.
Check out his Spotify, yes. Guys, we'll catch you later.